Just as the waves shape and rework the shoreline, the endless flow of experience sculpts the landscape of our minds. Each skill we possess and each thing that we can do now that we couldn't do before represents a victory over some difficulty that once seemed impossible. And I think this is the piece we're missing when we talk about artificial general intelligence. Because to create a machine that truly thinks, we don't just need systems that process information. We need systems that have this fundamental drive to overcome obstacles, that feel the weight of fear, and that learn to transform it into mastery. Without this core mechanism that drives all human learning and achievement, we're not building intelligence, we're just building really sophisticated calculators.
Every day, your mind performs alchemy, turning what we once feared into sources of achievement and growth. But how does this metamorphosis happen? Throughout human history, we've been driven by two opposing forces, the instinct to avoid danger and the yearning to overcome it. Today, we'll explore the fascinating mechanics of how your mind transforms fear into mastery and why this skill may be necessary if we're ever to develop an artificial general intelligence.
Like the water's surface, our thinking reflects the world around us. But concealed beneath this surface lies a vast ocean of complexity. Layers of intuition, emotion, and hidden drives shape how we think, how we learn, and how we perceive. As we strive to create truly intelligent machines, we must dive deep into these unexplored depths of the mind. I'm Evan Goldstein, and this is Deep Thoughts, an exploration of human cognition and the future of artificial general intelligence.
You know, a huge part of how you learn is figuring out which experiences to fear and which ones to avoid. But here's the thing, you don't just run away from everything that scares you. Most of the time, you actually face your problems head on and solve them. This is how you grow up. This is how you become who you are. Not by running from challenges, but by turning them into stepping stones. Have you ever wondered why some people handle situations easily that completely freeze other people in their tracks? Here's something profound. Every single fear you have was created by another fear, a deeper one. Let me give you an example. Say you're terrified of driving. That fear isn't really about the car itself. It's rooted in something deeper. Maybe you're afraid of losing control or hurting someone. Think about it like this. Imagine your fears as a family tree, where each fear has a parent fear that gave birth to it. Your driving anxiety might have been born from a parent fear, a fear of being responsible for other people's safety. And that fear itself might come from an even deeper place, a fear of being seen as incompetent or dangerous. But wait, this assumes something interesting. It assumes that every time you try to drive, you must end in an accident or a panic attack. But the evidence shows us something completely different. Millions of people drive every single day, and they actually find it relaxing, empowering, even meditative. So what makes these drivers different from someone who's white-knuckling it down the highway? How do such cases become exceptions? In the case of driving, you can turn a failure into a success. You start in empty parking lots. You learn how the car works. You understand traffic patterns, or you take defensive driving courses. These actions, and others like them, increase your chances of a positive outcome.
Deep within the architecture of human consciousness lies a system, one that doesn't just help us escape our fears, but it teaches us to face them with wisdom and with skill. This system forms the bedrock of human learning and achievement. It allows us to venture beyond our comfortable boundaries into realms of new possibility.
You can think of each of these as a skill, a mental tool that rewrites the rules of the game. A skill in this sense creates an exception to the rule. The rule is that all driving must end in disaster. The exception says all driving must end badly, unless. Skills are how you turn a bad situation into a good one. When experienced drivers give you tips, or when instructors teach you techniques, they're trying to pass on the skills needed to turn a potential catastrophe into an accomplishment. Here's where it gets interesting. Your brain literally rewrites its own programming when you develop these skills. And AI systems are doing something remarkably similar. Instead of the fear circuit firing alone, it now has a companion circuit that says, but wait, there's another way. Let me give you another example. Deep-sea diving is dangerous. It's something you should generally avoid. But diving with the right training and the right equipment can be transformative, awe-inspiring. Your additional preparation and knowledge convert a scary situation into an achievement. Both these examples hint at an underlying question. What exactly are you trying to achieve with driving a car or with deep-sea diving? Why do we even attempt these things if our brains are screaming at us to stop? The answer reveals something profound about human nature. Your earliest motivation to get behind the wheel probably came from wanting to feel independent, free, or like a responsible adult. This desire prompted you to try driving. That is, before you found out how terrifying it could be. A few bad experiences, and you quickly learn that painful lesson. The worst part, the panic and helplessness you feel, is the exact opposite of the freedom you were seeking.
Think about the last time you felt that moment of understanding, the crystalline instant when chaos gave way to clarity. Like a master craftsperson discovering a new technique, we suddenly grasp not just a solution, but a pattern and a way of transforming challenge into opportunity.
The same can be said for deep-sea diving. Though the initial motive differs from person to person, one motivation is to gain a sense of adventure, connection with nature, the belief that you can explore hidden worlds. To panic underwater, struggle for air, and fail gives you the exact opposite feeling. The fact that they're opposites is no coincidence. It's actually the key to understanding how your brain processes challenges. If you label the deeper motivation underlying one of your drives as the parent, and the motivation it generated as the child, you can connect a parent with its child like branches on a tree. Picture this. You've got your deep desire. Let's call it the parent. Say wanting to feel independent and free. That desire gives birth to a specific action, the child, learning to drive. But here's the twist. When that child action goes wrong and creates fear, it creates the exact opposite of what the parent wanted. Instead of freedom, you get trapped by anxiety. When someone asks you to drive somewhere and you're untrained, you feel that crushing anxiety because failure seems inevitable. But add in some proper instruction, practice in safe environments, and gradual exposure, and that fear goes away. The green light of confidence cancels out the red light of fear. The moment when you realize, oh wait, I can actually do this differently. That's pure magic. The moment in which you create an exception to a general rule is a moment of insight. It feels like someone just turned on the lights in a dark room you've been stumbling around in. You know that feeling when suddenly everything clicks? Like when you finally understand how to parallel park after struggling for weeks, and suddenly you can see the geometry of it all.
Now, each day, our biological minds forge new neural pathways as we encounter and overcome challenges. Of course, we don't even notice. We remember the solutions, but we forget the struggles that birthed them. This amnesia of learning masks a truth about human intelligence. Every thought that seems to spring effortlessly into our minds was once a hard victory over confusion or necessity.
I refer to these exceptions as skills, since they let you face the cause of your fear in a constructive way. They're not just band-aids on your fears. They're complete rewiring jobs. Their presence turns a bad situation into a good one. A situation you can't handle into one you can. In fact, they are the very reason you can handle it. They are the extra steps that you must take, or the information you need to succeed in your goal. Think back to the driving example. Someone who knows that starting slow in empty lots makes them more confident would be at an advantage over someone who didn't know that. The latter would either avoid driving forever, or else they would try and fail, not knowing there was a way to solve their difficulty. Here are some other examples of fears and how they can be overcome. A complex math problem leads to frustration and feeling stupid. A complex math problem plus breaking it into smaller steps leads to satisfaction and clarity. Intense anger leads to saying things you'll regret and damaged relationships. Intense anger plus breathing techniques leads to maintaining composure and earning respect. Notice that in each case, the additional skill doesn't erase the original fear. When you use breathing techniques during anger, you don't magically stop feeling mad. You simply gain the ability to channel that energy constructively. Finding a way to break down a calculus problem doesn't make calculus suddenly easy. It only makes you better equipped to tackle it piece by piece. Every skill is a constructive way out of a stressful situation. Here's the really cool part. Skills aren't specific actions. They're more like mental frameworks. Skills are general approaches rather than specific actions. Their benefit is that they give you the ability to handle specific cases as they come up.
So just as the waves behind me shape and rework the shoreline, the endless flow of experience sculpts the landscape of our minds. Each thought that flows through our consciousness, each skill we possess, represents a victory over some ancient difficulty. To create true artificial intelligence, we have to invent systems that don't just process information, but that have this fundamental drive to overcome obstacles.
They're like having a Swiss Army knife for your brain. One tool, many applications. They help you make the right connections in the moment. Once you've created a skill, you can use it to generate useful thoughts and actions on the spot. Let's look at how. As you saw, anything that gets you away from a fear causes you to learn something new. That is, you learn a new action or a thought. Your brain is constantly updating its playbook based on what works. And modern AI does the exact same thing through something called reinforcement learning. This is because the action or thought solved a problem. Until now, solving a problem simply meant removing the fear, the stressful thought or sight. For driving, the only solution was to avoid it altogether. But with a skill, you can address the problem without running away. Let me walk you through exactly how your brain creates a new thought pattern. Here is an example that shows the steps by which a skill creates a new thought. Assume for this example that you're afraid of driving unless you've practiced the route, in which case you feel confident. Consider these events in order. Your boss asks you to drive to an important client meeting across town. Driving there involves navigating unfamiliar roads, and that triggers your anxiety. While stressing about this, your colleague offers to ride with you the day before to practice the route. Practicing the route will make you feel prepared and confident. The thought of being prepared neutralizes the original fear of driving. Your mind automatically creates a thought connecting step 1 to step 3. Thinking about the client meeting now automatically brings to mind practicing the route first. Can you see how your brain just built a bridge over the fear? The process is the same as what happens when you remove a cause of stress. The only difference in this case is that the problem is actually a part of the solution. You're not avoiding the challenge anymore. You're dancing with it. Now here's where Robert Frost comes in. He was an American poet who lived from 1874 to 1963, famous for poems like The Road Not Taken. He had this incredible way of capturing life's truths in simple phrases, and he once said something that perfectly captures this whole process. The best way out is through. That line hits different when you realize he wasn't just talking about walking through woods. He was talking about facing life's challenges head on. Some skills are so common and frequently used that you don't even notice you're using them.
The infant mind, encountering a world of overwhelming complexity, gradually transforms confusion into understanding. This process continues throughout our lives. We forget the struggle that came before the mastery, but after the struggle fades from our memory, we don't just have solutions to specific problems, we actually have new capabilities of mind and body. Each challenge overcome leaves behind not just a memory, but a new way of being in the world. Maybe the capacity to transform yesterday's solutions into tomorrow's possibilities is the very essence of intelligence itself.